Hello and welcome everyone. We will just give everyone a few minutes, get their calendar invites settled down, and we'll get everything going in about 3 or so minutes. So I will talk to you soon. All right, we are at the 1 minute warning, one more minute, and we will get this show on the road. All right, hello, hello, hello. A big hearty greeting all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Staying up late to join you folks. My name is Curtis Dohaniak, and I am a product expert with Replicon. And today I will be your guide and host on our feature webinar presentation, Transforming Your Global Time and Gross Pay. So before we go any further, we will just take a quick look at our agenda today. So first, we'll look at some of the challenges that organizations face around global time and gross pay, and then we will look at how the Replicon platform solves these challenges. We'll look at this through a demo where I show you the platform in action. We can see everything in motion. And afterwards, we'll look at the kind of summary of everything we saw today and some customer transformations of how the Replicon platform has changed the way they capture time. So a little bit of housekeeping before we go any further. Throughout this presentation, you will be on mute, but don't worry, rest assured, if you have any questions that pop into your brain at any moment in time, feel free to submit them in the question box, and I will get them all in the Q&A period at the end of the session. Now, if you're entering questions or raising your hand throughout the presentation, don't feel like I'm ignoring you, because I'm not. Just trying to keep the flow going. That being said, if there is a glaring error, like my audio cuts out or my screen blacks, put your hand up and I will get to you then, and then hopefully fix any problems. But otherwise, I'll kind of just keep the flow of the presentation going and would appreciate keeping all hands down unless there is an emergency. So at Replicon, not only do we believe that people's time is a strategic asset, but it is your most important asset. Time is finite. You only have so much of it available to you at any given time. And once it's used up, it is gone. You are not getting it back. So you have to manage it like the precious, precious resource that it is. And how much time do you have at your disposal exactly? Well, that depends on the size of your organization. So with 500 employees, you're going to have 1.04 million hours available to you annually. 5,000 employees, that jumps up to 10.4 million hours in a year. And with 50,000 employees, you have 104 million hours available to you in a calendar year. And that is so much time. It's more time than one person can deal with, one department. It's almost unfathomable how much time that is. And what makes this time so hard to deal with? Well, it is fragmented and tedious. So in your organization, you may or may not have all or some of these programs, but there is ERP, payroll, CRM, project management, PSA, and HCM. And as you can see with Frankie, our poor Franken system here, not every single piece fits in the puzzle so well. And to magnify these problems, we have on-premises data and databases and on-premises hardware. And if we have employees working across the globe or even just right now working from home, this makes everything so difficult to manage because frankly, we have time information everywhere and it is so inconsistent. And this causes a lot of struggles. As you can see, many headaches. Some of them include global regulatory compliance problems, payroll errors, pay and piece rates, job costs, union contracts. The list goes on. And what is so important is that you need time to do your job. Well, frankly, most people in your organization need time to do their job. Finance leaders, operations leaders, delivery leaders, billing leaders, HR leaders, payroll leaders, they all need time, albeit for different reasons. But what doesn't change is that everyone needs an accurate and consistent source of time to pool all this information from. So for that, we have Replicon's Time Intelligence Platform, your powerful platform for all of your time tracking needs. So you're going to hear me say this more than a couple of times today, but Replicon is so configurable. Every single aspect of the platform can be changed and moved around to meet your organization's needs. And this includes size. So whether you are that 10 employee startup or that 1 million employee established organization, we can scale up to meet your organization's growing and changing needs. And not only are we able to grow in size, but in location. So Replicon is international. We can be with your employees wherever they are on this big blue planet. We are global and secure. We have multiple locations, languages, currencies, payrolls, time zones, holiday calendars. So regardless of where your employees are located, they will have a configured Replicon instance that will meet their exact needs, and it will feel like it was built for them, because it is. And not only are we global, but we are mobile. So even with your employees worldwide, we have our mobile app that was built from the ground up so that they can easily track their time no matter where they are during the day. Because we know it is so difficult to try and remember exactly what you did during the day and then wait till you get home to a desktop to log your time. That is just not efficient. So by having this mobile app ready for everyone, you can easily enter your time regardless of where you are during the day. And one of the ways that we make all of these processes easy is through artificial intelligence. So all the way from our administration down to our end user, we use artificial to streamline processes and make everything just simple and efficient for everyone involved. And finally, we are plug and play. So that means we are an open source API and we can send and receive data to and from all of the programs in your ecosystem. You can rest assured that regardless of what you have happening in your organization, Replicon will find a nice, comfortable home amongst all the rest of your programs. So Replicon is a comprehensive suite that is made up of multiple solutions. So we're going to focus in on the time and attendance solutions today, but we do also have project-based solutions like time and billing, project time and cost, and project resource management. And if any of these do pique your interest, stay tuned because we do have weekly webinars that are covering all of these topics and more. Or just get in touch with me and I will hook you up with some answers. We can find someone who can help you out and dive a little bit further into any of your organization's needs that may cover some of these other solutions. So we are here today to talk about challenges around global time and gross pay. And well, there are a few challenges. As you can see, managing your global time and gross pay can be so difficult. It is so complex. Even having one or two locations can really magnify the issues of trying to track your time and manage it appropriately because, well, you have different people that are using different time systems. There are different rules in every country in the world, and trying to keep up with all these different labor laws and compliance issues can be so difficult. So here's an example of a company that had 10,000 employees. They were global and they had 36 different time systems. And what really makes me shudder is looking at all of those Excel spreadsheets. Ooh. So just imagine trying to have any sort of valuable data that can tell you anything about your organization when you're trying to translate information from one vendor to the next. It just makes things so difficult and you are not accurately understanding what your time is doing for your organization. So some of the common challenges we see in organizations that have global time and gross pay issues is the lack of visibility into global time data. It's difficult to scale. They have global compliance problems, inability to meet diverse employee needs, and implementation cycles are extended. So today we will talk about how the Replicon platform solves all of these problems. We are a unified global time and attendance approach for scheduling time off and all of your time tracking needs. We help support complex use cases, including job costing and premiums. We have advanced mobile capabilities, including GPS tracking, geofencing, and more. We have an intelligence time clock that is touchless and has facial recognition, a global compliance library, support for unions and CBAs, and seamless integration with all the programs in your ecosystem. But I'm sure you've seen enough of this PowerPoint. Now we get to hop into all the fun stuff. Let's see the platform in action. And big reveal, the Replicon platform. So the page you see here is our administration tab. This is where all the ups and downs of Replicon are hidden. This will be only accessible to people with access that is given to them. But even more pressing than the beautiful layout of our administration page is this big 3 in the corner. Usually anytime you see a big lit up number like that, that means there is something that needs to be dealt with. And oh, would you look at that? It's our compliance dashboard, and that's the topic of what we're dealing with today. What a shock. So with our compliance dashboard, we have a team of legal and product experts who are constantly combing the globe for any changes in payrolls across our planet. And if there's a change, they will go into Replicon platform, they will adjust this payroll accordingly, and basically you just have to check a couple of boxes. So we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's get a rundown of how this page works. So here we can say all the payrolls we have in effect. Now these payrolls can be exposed to different users. They can be exposed one at a time, or if you have different groups, you can expose them in larger numbers. Here we can see who we have assigned to a specific payroll, how many users we have assigned to a specific payroll. And we can also see the status of this payroll. So up to date is what you want, right? That means you're compliant. But as you can see here, that big 3 correlates to these 3 different payrolls that need review. So that means something is about to change. And us being organization important, either managers, supervisors, administrators, we want to understand what these changes mean for our organization. And there are a couple of ways that we can do this. One is we can dive down into this version history, and we can see kind of the Coles notes, the short version of what's being changed. So for example, modified holiday pay calculation. Now, good to know, but we might want to understand this a little bit further. So at Replicon, we actually keep a subscriptions page, and we keep up to date a blog that dives further into any of these changes. So let's take a look at our most recent blog post about Germany federal court decision on forwarding of annual leave and employer obligation to inform. So this will really break down all of the changes in this given payroll. We have our German vacation law, any applicable links. I'm not going to pronounce that. My German is pretty entry level, so I don't want to embarrass myself in public. But as you can see here, we really value informing our customers about how these changes not only are happening, but how they will affect them. So here you can drill down into any of these changes and really understand how this will be affecting your organization. And you can see here, oh, I guess I didn't need to scroll, that we can pop down here, and I don't want to skip it this time, but we have our global compliance updates, so you can always peruse these and see what's happening around the world. And we can also subscribe. So we know it's difficult to keep up with everything going on all the time, so you can actually add subscribers, and whether they are a Replicon user or an external user, you can enter in their name, email address, location. You can actually subscribe to specific locations, and then if there's any changes in that location, everything will be mailed out to you. So again, we're just making everything easy for everyone involved. We don't want you to have to sweat about compliance. We want to make it as easy as possible. So essentially what we do is we make compliance possible in a couple of clicks. So as I said, we drill down into this compliance dashboard. We see that there is a change that needs to be made. Pretty difficult here. We have to click acknowledge, and then we will be compliant. So we are making compliance out of box. You don't have to do anything special unless you think that clicking a couple buttons is special, but otherwise we are making this process so simple for everyone involved. And these payrolls that we have built into Replicon are numerous. So let's dive down into our payrolls. We have over 100 at this point. This includes provinces, states, countries, and this list is always growing. So if you're in a location that you don't see on this list here, it's probably in the works, or we can work with you to get it added on and we can maintain that for you as well. So one I like to show as an example of how comprehensive these payrolls are is the Czech Republic. And when we drill down here, I can see exactly what is going on within this payroll. So I can see the parameters that are applied to this payroll, different pay codes, and then the metrics that must be met for this specific parameter. So if we're daily overtime hours 8, weekly overtime hours 40, anything beyond that's going to be charged, nighttime premiums. So you'll be able to understand exactly how this payroll is applied to any given user. And if you need to drill down a little bit further, you can click the lightning bolt and we can actually assign this payroll to a specific user and see how it would be affected if we accepted or changed anything on this payroll with our exceptions page. We can calculate for certain weeks and see how the applicable time will be calculated. So in this week of July, we can see how much I would have been paid for different time codes. So it really allows us to understand how this payroll will affect our organization. Now, we don't want you to be able to change anything on these payrolls because we want you to stay compliant. And if someone accidentally checks something or switched a number, this could be disastrous because it could change the compliance of your organization. And if there was ever an audit, that would not be good news. But there are instances where you might need to switch one of these rules around slightly. Maybe your organization has different rules, or maybe you are following a CBA or a union, and you need to slightly adjust one of these payrolls, and that's okay. So we can actually create a copy right here. I'm not going to make a copy of Bermuda because I already have a couple of copies here. So we can drill down into my copy of Brazil, and from here we can edit everything as we see fit. The kind of classic disclaimer, we're not monitoring these copy payrolls because that would give us a million different payrolls to follow across different organizations. So this is up to you, but again, you can make the changes if they are necessary for your organization. And to drill down even further, we just do so much within Replicon to ensure that you have the experience regardless of where you are in the world. So we have different currencies built in. You can see different exchange rates. You can always add currencies. Same goes for our holiday calendars. We have tons of different holiday calendars built in. And again, we can add and subtract from these. So you can really make this platform your own. And so now that we understand how payrolls will govern Replicon, we can start getting our resources scheduled. And scheduling within Replicon, super simple, just like everything else. So we can drill down and we can actually add assignments on a batch level. So if we have a couple users working the same shifts, we can go ahead and add them here, select the day they're working, select the shift, what time they're starting and ending, if that's not applicable, if we didn't select a specific shift, and yeah, we can make any notes here for them. And when we are ready to go, we can actually apply this and it will assign these schedules. If we need to change something or remove a schedule, we can unpublish or we can remove the schedule entries. So we have so much control over what we're seeing on our schedule here. And this is important because this will translate to some information on their timesheets later when we look at entering our time into those. Back on the administration tab, we can see that we can actually change our schedule. So maybe we're moving on from a 7-day work week. We have a 48-96 schedule, 3-day work week. Whatever changes happen within our organization, Replicon can keep up with those. And that includes with our shifts, so we can create different pre-made shifts so we are not physically going in and adding the exact hours that someone's working every time, because chances are there's going to be shifts that are going to be used over and over again. And if there's a new shift that's created, maybe hours change because of COVID or whatever, you can always adjust these on the fly. So again, you can ensure that your organization is staying up to date with any changes that happen. So we have seen how our platform is governed by our payrolls. We've taken a look at how schedules work, and now is the fun part. We get to enter our time and track it within Replicon. So we call ourselves the Time Intelligence Company for a reason. Time is something we do very, very well. There exists so many different timesheets within Replicon that you could feasibly create an individual timesheet for every single user in your organization. So here you can see we are entering our time towards specific shift hours or hours that we've worked. If we've logged our vacation time, it'll actually pop up on the sheet here. We can also log our break time. And if I need to log my work time, I can say, I'm working late today. So we'll say 1:30 p.m. and we'll be done around 11 p.m. and everything will be updated. My hours will be logged here. and my regular time, overtime, and double time will be all updated on this payroll summary. So these are just one example of a timesheet that we can create for an individual user. They are so flexible. But I think I am about ready to submit this timesheet, so let's see what goes on when I try to submit this for approval. So the first thing we'll see is I forgot to accept this attestation. So attestations are certain parameters that must be met every single time a timesheet is submitted within Replicon, and these cover a host of different things. They are looking at minimum hours entered, maximum hours entered, overtime on a daily basis, overtime on a weekly basis, hours during a rolling period, mandatory break enforcement, the list goes on. And there are different things that will happen if we don't meet these specific parameters. So in this instance, we can see I have an attestation. I need to acknowledge all time entered is accurate, and any discrepancies should be reported promptly to my supervisor. And I was not feeling like scrolling down all the way to the bottom, but don't worry. Replicon will remind me with this gentle attestation screen. If I want to submit this timesheet, I have to go ahead and accept and submit. And we'll let Replicon do its thing, work its magic, and whoop, I'm already popping up some errors. Oh boy. So it looks like things are not looking good on this timesheet for me. I've exceeded my daily limit of overtime. Total hours for the work week are past 40 hours. And there's a weekly overtime of 10 hours. So I had a lot of errors on this timesheet. And what you can see, unfortunately for me, is this timesheet was rejected. So these validation rules are put in place so that we can ensure that the time being entered is accurate every single time. And by having these stringent validation rules in place, we know that our employees will have to take entering their time seriously, because if they make a mistake or something is out of place, then we will know automatically. So one of the reasons we do this is because we want to nip these timesheet errors in the bud, because we know how much time fixing these errors can take. You have to go back and forth with your employees, ask them what needs to be fixed, drill down and see what needs to, it's just no fun for anyone and not a good use of anyone's time. So we have these stringent validation rules to ensure that this is all kept up to date. And as you can see within Replicon, we have a bunch of built-in rules already. And again, these can all be adjusted, added upon, subtracted from. We can create them from the ground up just to ensure that we are covering every base when we are entering our time. So you can see we got daily rest periods, weekly hours, prevent breaks at start, end of day, daily minimum hours, minimum. The list goes on. So again, you can add these or subtract these to each individual timesheet in your organization, so you can create that custom timesheet for every single user. And if you want to drill down even further into all these timesheets, we have our timesheets page on our payroll tab, which houses every single timesheet that has ever been created in the history of your organization. So here we can see timesheets that have been not submitted, timesheets that are waiting for approval, timesheets that are approved, rejected. They will all be found here. We will also see the status of any of our pay calculations on each of these individual timesheets, as well as any validation warnings that have been triggered. This page is really important because if we ever need to go back in case of dispute or audit, we have control over every single timesheet. They don't disappear, they don't go anywhere. You have control over them at all times. Also very useful on this page for me as an approver is my waiting for approval tab. And unfortunately, I have been maybe slacking a little bit. I haven't been so adamant on approving these timesheets. I'll put that on me. And if I need to, I can go ahead and batch approve or reject all 75 of these timesheets. But that might not be a great idea because as we can see, I have some validation warnings triggered. And these validation warnings exist in a couple of different forms. So the one we saw previously rejected my timesheet, but here, maybe it's less of an egregious error and we can actually submit that timesheet and still have it flagged so that it just needs a little bit more investigating when we go to pick through this timesheet. So let's first take a look at Chris DeFonte, see what happened with his timesheet. So Chris has a little bit more of a basic timesheet. He is simply entering the hours that he is working during the day. He's not entering a specific task or a time. He's just logging his hours, and for many organizations, this works perfectly. But what is not perfect is he has triggered one of these validation rules. Unfortunately, Chris's timesheet is more than the 40 hours. So there's a couple things that can happen here. Me, being a supervisor, can go in, drill down, adjust his timesheet, fix the hours. But again, like we said before, we want to put the onus on the end user. So we can actually give Chris the ability to go back into his timesheet, reopen this timesheet, adjust everything as we see here, and any changes will be logged in this approval history on the bottom. Now, what is also important to note is that any changes in this timesheet will be sent to the appropriate deltas on payroll And so everything will be adjusted automatically. So again, you don't have to sweat about changing timesheets after the fact. And once that is adjusted, we could submit this and it will be submitted again and everything is looking smooth. Another example that we have here of a timesheet is with Rania. And Ranya's timesheet is a little bit more of a custom timesheet. So we actually support projects within Replicon. So today we are focusing more on the global time and gross pay. But Replicon does have a robust project system where we can log time towards specific projects and tasks. We can create different expenses, billing rates, teams. We can actually add estimates to all these tasks. And this allows us to create really accurate job costing. But today we're not focusing in on that, but it's good to know the capabilities of the platform. So if this is something that interests your organization, we can actually create timesheets that are more project oriented. So for Rania, she is logging the time that she worked during the day. She also has her activities, tasks, and projects. What Rania also has is this comment section here. And this comment section is really important, especially with people working remotely or working from home. We want to know exactly what's happening during the day. We want to know what their successes are, where they might be struggling, so we can help them out. But unfortunately, we can't help them if they are not entering their comments in the comment field. So here we can see Rania triggered one of these validation rules. So we can go back with Rania, have a little bit of discussion, say, we really do value these comments. Can you please enter them in the future? And you know what? Maybe Rania forgets again next week, but we are ready for this. So we can actually change one of her validation rules to make mandatory comments. And if she forgets, timesheets rejected, so she's going to have to go back and enter them anyway. The other tab that we have here is our mileage tab, and this is an example of a custom tab. This could say mileage, it could say units completed, it could be your time worked during the day, it could be photo proof of the work that you did that day. What we are really trying to exemplify here is that not only can we make an individual timesheet for every user in your organization, but we can make a different timesheet for each of their different kind of use cases. So maybe you have a user that will be working from home, working from the office, and maybe working on the road. So you need 3 different timesheets for each of these different weeks. Well, you can do that within Replicon and more. So we are giving you the ability to create the timesheet for every situation that a user will find themselves in. And timesheets go a little bit further. So what we saw here is kind of more of a manual time entry timesheet, but we do also support punching. So not quite so popular when you're looking at your different kind of desktop timesheets, but very useful for our mobile app and our cloud clock, which we'll talk about in a second. But as you're entering all your punches, they will all be displayed just like you see here on this punch sheet. So this is a lot to look at, and especially if you are trying to manage these hours across different projects, tasks, distribute them to overtime, double time, regular time, it can be tricky to say the least. So let's say we are going to go ahead and remove this punch here. So this punch will disappear, this punch will disappear. That is going to change the hours that we have worked this day. And as we can see here, when we update this page, the allocations might change around a little bit. So this could be difficult because, well, there is so much going on here, but don't worry, Replicon has got your back. So we can actually overwrite this with our allocate timesheet hours, and this will automatically do the calculations for us. We can overwrite with our scheduled hours, our timesheet hours, but again, we just want to make this process so simple for everyone involved and reduce the amount of errors that can happen at any given time. And to make this process even easier, we understand that there are different situations than just people who are going to want to enter their time on a traditional timesheet. So one of the other opportunities that we offer with Replicon is our cloud clock. So just give me a moment here while I switch my screen. I got a couple different devices running for this particular webinar, so it's just going to take me a moment to start my broadcast. So our cloud clock was designed to replace the traditional cloud clock. We know how clunky and frankly annoying those can be. So we wanted to make our cloud clock super smooth. So I'm kind of hiding here because it usually, as soon as it sees my face, it clocks me in. And our cloud clock can do a couple of different ways of logging in. So sorry, I'm going to hide again, but we can log in through QR code, we can log in through a user ID, or we can do the facial ID, which is really important right now. We want to make everything as contactless as possible. And this cloud clock actually can be fully contactless. So just give me a second here. So we can actually turn speech recognition on or off depending on our situation. I'm going to send this away, but we can see that our cloud clock is very sensitive. It can recognize my face in a bunch of different scenarios. Maybe I get a haircut, maybe I shave, glasses come off. And as you can see, it is logging everything I say Sometimes this leads to hilarious results, but I'm just going to exit so we can start fresh, and I will show you the cloud clock in action. So from here, I can say clock in.
Are you trying to clock in?
Yes. Takes my picture, and then from here, I can also hop over, log in again. I can take a break, clock out, choose my break type.
Are you trying to clock
Yes.
out?
So this is so useful for situations where we say have a factory, or maybe we just want to have people clocking in when they walk into the office or their place of work. So they just have to show their face, they never have to touch the device, and they're ready to go. And another option that we have is our mobile app. So again, I'm going to have to switch my screen. Just give me 1 second here. Oh my gosh, I have my face on 3 different devices. This is something I never was hoping I would see. But I will switch us over, and here we go. So our mobile app, like I said before, was built from the ground up. We wanted to make everything so easy for everyone involved. So when we log into our mobile app, we will be greeted by Chatbot. Now, Chatbot can help us streamline processes. Chatbot can answer questions. And today, Chatbot is looking very adorable. But I'm sorry, Chatbot, we have no time for you. We are looking at gross pay and global time. That's tongue twister, always gets me for some reason. So for me, I can clock in or clock out just like I could on the desktop app. I can log my time towards specific clients, projects, and tasks if applicable. I can also clock in, clock out, shows me all of my beautiful punches. We'll just scroll past those. And I can also log my time in a little bit more of a traditional way. So again, you can have these punch in, punch out systems. You can have these traditional time systems. You can log time in whatever ways make sense for your organization. Here I can just select my activity. I can add hours across one day or multiple days, enter my comments and hours, and boom, submit my timesheet. And also, I'm actually not logged in as Curtis right now. I'm logged in as Richard just for demonstration purposes. If I am an approver, I will also have access to this handy dashboard. So this dashboard will notify me of anything that needs to happen, whether it be via push notification or email. It will let me know that Richard or Curtis, whoever the case may be, you have some stuff to do. And here we can see we can approve timesheets, expenses, time off, employees, and overtime. If I refresh this page, it's going to show me all 64 of those timesheets, but no, they're there, but I just don't want to have that many timesheets on my screen for, of course, demonstration purposes. But I can drill down and see exactly what's going on with this individual timesheet. I can see, business as usual. Tammy's logged her 8 hours, 5 days a week. We can see what we're expecting to pay out. So again, on the job costing, and if everything is looking nice, then I can go ahead and approve this. Now, approving 100 timesheets, 1,000 timesheets, 10,000 timesheets is time consuming to say the least. So if we have these business as usual timesheets, we can set them to approve automatically. So if there's none of these validation warnings triggered and the time is kind of business as usual, then it will go through automatically and we don't have to spend our time going through each of these timesheets. And because we have these validation rules in place, we can be assured that the time is accurate. And if this doesn't interest you, you still want to go through every single timesheet, you can have 1-step approval, 12-step approval, 5-step approval, whatever you want. Again, Replicon is built to cater to your organization's needs. So we have a couple of other ways though that we can keep time within our mobile app, and one of those is through our punch team statuses. So as a team leader, we'll be able to check in exactly where my users have punched in from. And again, optional. So if you are data sensitive and you don't want to be capturing this information, you don't have to, but it is an option. So we can see exactly when my people on my team punched in, where they punched in from, and again, photo of when they clocked in so that we know they are exactly who they say they are. We don't want any buddy punching because again, that leads to inaccurate time. People aren't doing their work. We want to avoid all this stuff. And here I can drill down into these punches. I can see if there's been any validation. James, you've got to take your meals. So as we can see, we can know exactly what's going on with all of our users at any given time. And this is important for a couple reasons. Maybe there's a natural disaster or an accident, or we just need to be in touch with one of our employees. We can know exactly where they are so that we can ensure they are safe and doing what they need to be doing. We can also create geofences on these maps. So we can create geofences of specific areas. Maybe it's a small area surrounding work. Maybe it's a large area because you have a large campus. Maybe it also includes that user's home. From here, you can mandate whether a user can clock in or clock out from these areas, and this is just ensuring they are not clocking in from the golf course, or maybe from their extra long lunch, or maybe they have taken a vacation to Hawaii and they didn't tell anyone. Who knows? You will be able to mandate where they can clock in and out from, and you can also change this on the fly. So maybe one week homework is what's happening and then they're back to the office, so you can get rid of the clock in from the house, because we know it can be tempting if you're running a little late to punch in. So by having this geofencing, geotagging, and this punch team status, we can control exactly how the time is being spent within our organization. And a couple other ways, we have crew time. So maybe you're managing a construction crew, for example, and you want to have someone who is monitoring time for everyone, because having 7 or 8 different people with phones can not always happen. So here we can choose who we have on our crew, we can save them, and once we are there, we can log their specific actions during the day. So we can log the hours that they've worked, we can log breaks for them, and this just gives us one central time to log time for everyone in our crew. And finally, we also have our team timesheets. So this is kind of the summation of all the timesheets on our team. We can see how many hours have been worked, costing again for the week, so we can see our gross pay, regular time, overtime. We can switch this over to hours as well. And we can also see timesheets have been entered with violations or without violations. Here we can see Tammy's business as usual was not business as usual this week. Let's drill down and see exactly what was going on with Tammy. And it looks like she took it easy. Monday she worked hard the rest of the week. Still didn't meet our validation rules, so we'll have to have a discussion with Tammy. But again, we are giving all this information to you in the palm of your hands, so you know exactly what is happening with everyone on your team when you need to know it. So that brings me to the end of this little demo on my mobile app. I'm just going to switch back to the desktop platform. So far we have looked how Replicon can help you control your compliance needs. We have taken a peek at scheduling and logging our time. And now, well, actually, we're going to take a look at another way we can log our time, because hours working are not the only time that we have to keep track of. We also have to manage time off within our organization. And this is done aptly in our time off tab. So every single user in your Replicon, if they have time off activated, they will be able to drill into their time off tab and, well, see exactly the balance of all their time off time. So here we can see our balances of our different types of time off. All these time off types are configurable, so you can change the metrics. So for example, with vacation, I will be able to understand exactly how my hours are accrued. I can set this to hours, I can set this to days. We can change so much with all of these accrual policies, and you can make them custom for every user, or you can make one blanket one for your organization. And again, you have full control over how this works. And as a user, I can drill down and see exactly when I've accrued my holiday hours, how much I have, my balance, etc. And from here, I can actually drill down and start booking my time off. So you can see I already took this Monday off. It was a vacation day with Canada. I didn't actually need to book it off. But here I can also drill down and change my vacation type, or my time off type. I can have a start date, end date, and this booking information will be updated as well. So I can see how much time I have left, how much time I should expect to have at the end of the year. And once it's ready to go, I can submit this for approval. And just like we saw on our approver page, this will be sent to my manager or supervisor, and they can quickly approve or reject this so I can better plan my vacations. Now, what we can also add on this screen is it can show other people in my team's time off as well. And this really helps me to avoid overlapping holidays so that we can better plan our schedules and again, have our most efficient workforce working at any given time. And finally, we have all this time information entered into Replicon, and we need to use it in a way that is useful for our organization. And one of those ways is exporting to Payroll. So shockingly enough, again, this is all done on our Payroll workbench. So our Payroll workbench can allow us to drill down and see exactly the status of all the hours that have been submitted on timesheets. So we have a bunch of different metrics that we can sort by date, right, pay run status, approval status, and we can see exactly the status of all the hours in the different denominations. So whether we are paying in US dollars, pounds, yen, Australian dollars, Replicon can handle all this information and then send it to the program of your choosing. So whether you are running ADP, you have SAP, whatever payroll program you have, we either have an out-of-the-box solution or something that we can configure to meet all of your needs. And when in doubt, we always have old trusty CSV, which is compatible with basically everything on this side of the planet. So there is always solutions for getting this information where you need it to go. And if you ever need to, again, go back and historically access any of your pay runs, they will all be located here. And if there's any changes in any of the deltas because timesheet has been adjusted, everything will be changed accordingly. So there has been all this inputted, exported from Replicon. You want to see what it means for your organization, and we display this information in a couple of ways. One of those is our inboard dashboards. So our dashboards are perfect for exporting into slideshows, presentation for leadership, or just helping anyone who needs to understand the status of the organization, just having a quick glance at how things are going. And these can be built from the ground up, adjusted. Again, you can do whatever you need to make them display the information that you need to access. And with all of these, we can drill down, we can be given all the raw data behind them. And if there's something that really does pique our interest, we can drill down in this instance, for example, for hours by project and see exactly who is spending how many hours on a specific project. And again, do what we need with that information. Now, another way we display your information is through reports. And I'm sure you have seen a report or 300,000 in your history, and that is because they are so important. They give us all the hard line data behind our organization. And so we can have these reports run daily, weekly, monthly. We can add or subtract from these reports. We have a ton of reports. These are the ones that are kind of most requested by our users, but we can adjust these, create them from the ground up, and we can run them whenever we need. So in this instance, I can run my employee pay details. I can have this scheduled to run whenever I need it to run, but we'll run it on the spot right now. And this will break down all my different pay codes for different days based on the employee. I can change the week I'm looking at. I can sort by all sorts of different metrics. So again, you have full control over your information. But we do also understand that there may be instances where, well, you have your whole ecosystem that needs to export information and you want this to work together seamlessly. So for that, Replicon connects to BI tools like Google BigQuery, Tableau, and Power BI. And all you have to do to have your information visualized just like you see here is download one of our sample workbooks, log in through your connector, and voila, you will have information displayed just like you see here. So on a base level, we can help you capture all of your hours, your time off hours, your work time, your overtime. But your time means so much more than just being captured. So for example, we can take a look at our productivity. We can see 89% of our time in this instance has been on projects and 11% not on projects. And on the surface, that looks okay, but when we drill down to our utilization, we can see that we are only at 57%, and an ideal utilization rate is about 70%. So we can see in this instance, our non-billable project time has really been eating into our bottom line, and that becomes evident when we drill down into our projects. So on our project analyzer, we can see that we have our dashboarding, our evaluation of billing systems, and our evaluation of financial reporting tools all suffering. They have so many non-billable hours, and that's creating kind of this runaway project effect where we are not making money on these projects. So by being able to identify these, we can rectify the situation and make any changes that are necessary. So not only are we helping you capture every single one of your hours, but we are helping you to transform them. So that's going to bring me, sadly, to the end of our demo. I'm going to hop back into our PowerPoint. We're going to take a look at a couple customer transformations, take a peek at a quick review of everything that we saw today, and then finally hop into the Q&A. So our first example was a 2,500 transportation worker organization. They used SAP to capture their global time, but it was not so flexible, didn't really work mobily, and well, transportation workers are mobile, so that didn't work so well for them. What resulted was that overtime pay was missed for a lot of workers, and their ERP system could not be configured to meet their needs, so it just caused so many problems. But after implementing Replicon, they had mobile access for field employees, and this significantly improved their data capture. They were able to have flexible modeling and complex pay and overtime rules, and of course, Replicon integrated back with SAP, so they could send and receive information as they saw fit. Another example we have here is our 50,000 employee engineering company. So this before section, it is a piece of work. It is a lot of stuff going on. They had non-exempt employees, projects, teams. They needed to track their time, pay overtime. Just reading through this gives me anxiety seeing everything that they had happening. What the moral of the story is after implementing Replicon, they had a time intelligence platform that could solve all of their use cases. They had out-of-the-box support for compliance, gross pay, absence, project track. So basically all their problems were fixed without even having to change our platform at all. So really it shows you the flexibility of this Replicon platform and how easy it can make your job when it comes to gross pay and global time. So here's kind of what we saw today. The Replicon platform can help you in so many ways, including unifying your view of enterprise time and gross pay, decreasing payroll errors, decreasing administration costs, reduction in labor costs, reduced compliance risk, and increased employee engagement. So as I said before, Replicon is a comprehensive suite. We kind of focused in on the right side here with our time and attendance solutions, but project-based solutions exist. We have a solution that comprehensively covers everything you saw here. So get in touch with us if you have any questions, and we can help you figure out what solution works best for your organization. So with that, it is time for the Q&A. If you have any questions that don't get answered to me today, feel free to drop me a line at any time. My name is Curtis Dohaniak, and that is also my email, curtis.dohaniak@replicon.com. That is a little bit of a tongue twister, so it might be good to copy it down. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope to hear from you soon. And stay happy, stay healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone, and thanks again.